Do you have a paranormal encounter you'd like to share with us? Send us an email with your story for a chance of it being featured on Weird World. On the evening of April 24th, 1964, a routine traffic stop in Socorro, New Mexico, would become one of the most compelling UFO encounters on record. What police officer Lonnie Zamora witnessed that day continues to intrigue and perplex UFO researchers and skeptics alike over half a century later. At approximately 5:45 p.m, Sergeant Lonnie Zamora of the Socorro Police Department was in pursuit of a speeding vehicle on Highway 85 just south of town. Suddenly, he heard a loud roar and saw a bright blue-orange flame in the sky about half a mile away. Concerned that there may have been an explosion at a nearby dynamite shack, Zamora abandoned his pursuit to investigate. As he approached the area, driving up a steep hill, Zamora caught glimpses of a shiny object and what appeared to be two figures standing beside it in a small gully. At first, he thought it might be an overturned car. He radioed dispatch to report his location and the possible accident. Upon cresting the hill, Zamora got a clearer view. About 150 to 200 yards away was a white egg-shaped or oval object that appeared to be resting on legs. He would later describe it as like aluminium. It was whitish against the mesa background, but not chrome. Beside it stood two beings in white coveralls. Zamora recalled them as being small adults or large kids, standing at approximately 4 to 5 feet tall. As Zamora exited his patrol car and began approaching on foot, he heard 2 or 3 loud thumps, like someone slamming a door. The roar then started again, growing louder, and Zamora saw a blue flame shoot out from the underside of the object. Fearing an explosion, he dived for cover behind his vehicle. When Zamora looked up again, the object was rising slowly into the air. He could now clearly see it was oval-shaped, smooth, and had no windows or doors. On its side was a red insignia or emblem that he would later sketch, a crescent shape with an arrow inside it. As the craft ascended to about 20 feet, it went silent and hovered briefly before speeding off towards the southwest, quickly disappearing from view over the mountains. Shaken, Zamora immediately radioed dispatch again, telling the operator to look out the window for the object. Within minutes, Sergeant Sam Chavez arrived on the scene. Though he did not see the object himself, Chavez would later report that Zamora appeared pale and severely shaken. Together, they examined the landing site. There, they found 4 rectangular impressions in the ground where the object's legs had apparently stood, forming a quadrilateral pattern. Nearby were several smaller, circular impressions. The brush in the area was smouldering, and the ground was still hot to the touch. News of the incident spread quickly. By the next morning, reporters and UFO investigators had descended on Socorro. Among the first on the scene was Ray Stanford of the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena, or NICAP. Through his initial interviews, Stanford uncovered potential corroborating witnesses. 2 tourists passing through the area, Larry Kratzer and Paul Keyes of Dubuque, Iowa, had apparently seen the object as well. They had stopped at a nearby service station shortly after hearing a loud boom. Kratzer mentioned to the attendant how low aircraft fly around here, describing what he saw as a funny-looking helicopter. Years later, when interviewed by UFO researcher Ralph DeGraw, Kratzer would recall seeing a round saucer or egg-shaped object ascending vertically from black smoke. The incident quickly caught the attention of the US military and government agencies. On April 25th, Army Captain Richard T. Holder from the nearby White Sands Missile Range arrived to interview Zamora, accompanied by FBI agent Arthur Burns. Zamora told them he believed he had witnessed a secret experimental aircraft, but Holder dismissed this notion, stating to the press that the military had no object that would compare to the object described. That night, Holder and Burns returned to examine the landing site, taking samples and studying the scorched areas. Years later, researcher James E. MacDonald would claim in his book, The UFO Casebook, that a sample of fused sand was discreetly removed by the military during this investigation. He cited an unnamed radiological chemist who allegedly discovered a solid glass-like area beneath the landing site, along with unidentified organic materials in her samples. According to MacDonald, Air Force personnel later confiscated her notes and materials, telling her not to discuss her findings. On April 28th, Dr. J. Allen Hynek arrived to investigate on behalf of the Air Force's Project Blue Book. Hynek, an astronomer who had long been sceptical of UFO reports, found himself increasingly intrigued by the Socorro case. He noted the credibility of Zamora as a witness and the physical evidence at the site. In his personal notes, Hynek wrote that the Air Force doesn't know what science is, hinting at his growing frustration with the official investigation's approach. Hynek would later state, "I think this case may be the Rosetta Stone of UFO cases. There's never been a strong case with so unimpeachable a witness." Despite the compelling nature of the evidence and witness testimony, there were persistent attempts to explain away or debunk the incident. Harvard astronomer Donald Menzel proposed that Zamora had fallen victim to an elaborate prank by high school students, a theory universally dismissed by locals who knew Zamora and the youth of Socorro. UFO skeptic Philip Klass initially suggested Zamora had witnessed ball lightning, but when this was proven impossible, he changed his angle of criticism. Klass accused Zamora and Socorro's mayor of inventing the entire episode to boost tourism. These claims were thoroughly refuted, with even other skeptics distancing themselves from Klass's assertions. Others speculated that Zamora had seen a wayward weather balloon or hot air balloon. However, this explanation failed to account for the loud roars, flames and smoke reported by multiple witnesses. Moreover, weather data showed that the object's reported movement was against the prevailing winds that day, ruling out a wind-borne craft. As the Air Force struggled to explain the incident, two very different reports emerged. The public-facing report highlighted errors in the investigation and ultimately drew, quote, "no conclusion." However, a second classified report prepared by Major Hector Quintanilla, director of Project Blue Book, painted a very different picture. This report, not declassified until the 2000s, stated there was no doubt Zamora had witnessed something extraordinary. Quintanilla wrote, "There is no doubt that Lonnie Zamora saw an object which left quite an impression on him. There is also no question about Zamora's reliability. He is a serious police officer, a pillar of his church, and a man well versed in recognising airborne vehicles in his area. He is puzzled by what he saw, and frankly, so are we. This is the best documented case on record, and still we have been unable, in spite of thorough investigation, to find the vehicle or other stimulus that scared Zamora to the point of panic." Intriguingly, the Socorro incident was not isolated. On the very same day, Across the country in Newark Valley, New York, farmer Gary Wilcox reported an encounter with a similar craft and beings. The descriptions of both the object and its occupants closely matched Zamora's account. While many were sceptical of Wilcox's story, he turned down substantial sums of money to sell his account, lending credibility to his claims. In the weeks surrounding the Socorro incident, there was a notable uptick in UFO sightings across the western United States. On April 10th, the North American Aerospace Defense Command radar detected multiple anomalous objects over Merced, California. A week later, Fallon Air Force Base in Nevada tracked two strange objects in a stacked formation for over an hour. Just days after the Socorro incident, multiple witnesses in Las Vegas observed a group of silver objects performing unusual manoeuvres in the sky. The high-level interest in the Socorro case was evident in the aftermath. Captain Holder, initially sent to investigate as a junior officer, found himself unexpectedly reporting directly to a high-ranking colonel at the Joint Chiefs of Staff over a secure phone line. This level of attention from top military brass left Holder wondering why in the world were they so interested. The Socorro incident remains one of the most credible and well-documented UFO encounters in history. The combination of a reliable witness, physical evidence, and the inability of official investigations to provide a satisfactory explanation continues to captivate researchers and the public alike. Whether it was a genuine encounter with an otherworldly craft, a misidentified secret military project, or something else entirely, the events of April 24, 1964, in Socorro, New Mexico, stand as an iconic illustration of the ongoing mystery of the UFO phenomenon. As we reflect on this extraordinary case over half a century later, we're left with more questions than answers. What did Lonnie Zamora really see that day? Why did it garner such intense interest from the highest levels of the US government? And perhaps most intriguingly, how does the Socorro incident fit into the broader web of UFO encounters that have been reported around the world? The truth behind the Socorro landing may never be fully known, but it remains a compelling chapter in the ongoing search for answers about our place in the universe and the possibility that we are not alone.